All right. Well, it's 2:01 on a Friday afternoon, so I think I'll get us started here this afternoon. And I think that we're getting some feedback from Brian, maybe? Thanks, Brian. So welcome, everyone, to the first off-season workshop for Watercraft inspection program coordinators like yourselves. Just wanted to outline some of the workshop goals here today as people are entering and still joining on here. The goals of these workshops are to learn from one another's experiences and network with your peers. We expect that everyone's welcome to contribute. We'd like you to be an active listener and to speak honestly, to share information in ways that can help others be successful, be respectful and open to new ideas and new ways of doing things, and everyone participates and no one dominates. And for those that don't use Teams that often, just some tips on the side here on how to navigate the toolbar. Sometimes if you're presenting, it disappears in different areas, so you just have to move your mouse around a little to find that toolbar there. And then please do make sure your microphone is muted if you're not presenting or talking. We are taking a more panel approach to these workshops than we have in the past. So we're really encouraging more participation from everyone that's on the call as well, because we'd like to learn from everyone that's here today. So with that, I'll say if you want to enter your name, organization, and the first music concert that you attended as our little icebreaker in the chat. That might be a fun way for everyone to get to know everyone on the call without going around and introducing everyone. So with that, we have our agenda for this afternoon. We'll have the Minnesota AIS Research Center's team talk about their project for improving the efficiency of watercraft inspections through coordination and cooperation, and have a full group discussion based on that information. We'll take a break because breaks are very important in these, especially in these online meetings here. And then we'll go into our panel sessions. We've got 3 panel sessions today: tribal and local government collaboration, an East Metro collaboration, and DNR collaboration. So lots to cover here today. Again, really welcoming all the participation from everyone on the call here this afternoon. And I wanted to thank our presenters and our panelists listed on this slide here for being part and preparing for this workshop. Really appreciate it. We literally cannot do this without you, so it's very much appreciated. With that, I think I will say, Hanwoo, if you're ready to kick it off with your team, I can stop sharing and you can share your presentation. Or if you'd like me to share it for you, I could also do that. Whatever's easiest.
Okay, let me try sharing my screen.
Okay.
So I need a permission.
Oh, okay. Let me, I think I can do that. No, you should have permission.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let me try once again. So can you now see my screen?
We sure can. Thank you.
Okay. Let me start. Thank you all for coming. It's an honor to share our ongoing project or recent work about enhancing social welfare. It's about it's about applying game theoretical and mathematical model for AIS prevention task. I'm Hyunwoo Lee, a presenter from ISD Department at Virginia Tech. This is joint work with Dr. Hildebrand, Dr. Kai, Dr. Toy, and Dr. Kinsley. In this talk, I will briefly mention what the motivation is, and then I will introduce a framework to enhance social welfare, and then I will show you the refined state level models, which is an outcome of the proposed framework. And then in computational results, I will show the effectiveness of our models for AIS prevention. And in section 5, we look forward to hearing your feedback and your opinions. So the motivation is we model the AIS prevention task as a game among counties. So in the game, we want to find such an equilibrium point, and we want to use those equilibrium point as a reference point. So our study examines the differing priorities of state and county planners. For example, state level, the state planner wants to maximize the total number of risky boat movements inspected across the entire state. Here, the risky boat movements refers to boat movements from infested lakes to uninfested lakes. On the other hand, the county planners may want to maximize the number of risky boat movements inspected that are incoming to a specific county. Assuming that each county acts in its own interest, we can model this as a game among counties. For example, consider Cass County in the map. So Cass County does not consider the outgoing risky boat movements, but wants to prevent those incoming risky arcs. So we identify a pureness equilibrium, which represents a stable state in this game. If you're not familiar with those technological terminology, do not worry. It's just a stable point. So the PNE solutions serves as a reference point and baseline for developing the subsequent mathematical models. Before I go deeper for mathematical models, I want to introduce some technical terminologies. When I refer utility values, it means the number of inspected incoming risky boats for a specific county. And social welfare, it refers to the total number of inspected risky boats across the entire state, aligning with the state level objective. And also, the social welfare is defined as the sum of all utility values. When we refer to budget, it means the maximum allowable number of inspected lakes for each county. PNE, as mentioned, a stable state. Utility values at the best PNE means if there exist multiple pureness equilibriums, we pick the best and use the utility values at the best PNE as a reference point. We further consider a coalition, which means a strategy where counties pool their budgets within the same coalition to improve social welfare. Lastly, refined state level models means the models designed to maintain county level utility values at the best PNE while increasing overall social welfare. At the end of this presentation, we'd like to discuss whether these concepts sound reasonable and whether the data inputs we have used are appropriate. So this is a flow chart for enhancing social welfare. We first consider state level optimization model, and we decompose this optimization model to county level model, and we capture the interplayer dynamics, inter-county dynamics. We formalize a game and find the P&E and pick the best P&E. And the most important task is using the identified P&E as a reference point in refined state level models. So all refined state level models preserve the county level utility values at the best P&E while incorporating distinct features. So we will show two variants of refined state level models. We propose two variants of refined state level models. One is refined social welfare model, and the other is refined coalitional model. In the refined social welfare model, there exists no coalition. So each county can have its control over budget, but the central planner will solve the problem. And this model will maximize the number of inspected booths while preserving the budgets and the utilities of counties from game. So if you see constraint 6D, 6D means the utility is preserved. And constraint 6C means the budgets are preserved. On the other hand, we find coalitional model, RCM models allows tailored coalitions. So this is also central planner's model, but this model maintains the county level utilities, but by allowing coalitions, the social welfare can greatly increase. This is a quick comparison of refined state level models. Both RSW and RCM model can preserve utility values for each county, but they have differences in dealing with budgets and coalitions. But we want to highlight the RCM model because it has a capability of incorporating various scenarios. So I have listed some scenarios like we can come up with a scenario like when a minimum budget level is specified, when a subset of counties is not willing to make coalitions, and we can control the number and the size of the coalitions, and we can think about the coalitions following predetermined associations. And we welcome any suggestion from county planners. So we show the effectiveness of refined state level models. If you see the table 3, the blue marked box shows that the social welfare has increased from BPNE, best PNE, to RSW and RCM. So it shows quite a large improvement. Not just the social welfare, but if you see table 4, the county level utility values also have increased. So out of 83 counties, 68 to 69 counties experienced a strict increase, while the other counties could maintain their previous utility values. Furthermore, the RCM model, because it allows coalitions, it introduces a new budget distribution, budget allocations. We analyzed this, and it shows that when the number of budget exceeds the number of infested lakes, the counties will lose some of their budget. And when the number of budgets is less than or equal to the number of infested lakes, the counties will gain some of their budgets. So in here, table 5, blue marked area. So Cass County has 21 units, 21 original budgets, but it has only 11 infested lakes. So in the RCM model, its original budget it will be reduced. But in Meeker, the Meeker County can maintain its original budget because the budget and the number of infested lakes are the same. The new allocation by the RCM model shows that the current budget allocation may be inefficient, and and that a better solution can be achieved. However, drastic change in current budget allocations may not be realistic. So we need more realistic scenarios for the new budget allocation while avoiding excessive changes in the budget. So we consider different scenarios. First, as a default scenario, we impose the minimum budget level specified as the original budget minus 2 unit. And there are 3 different scenarios. And if you see table 9, RCN 1, 2, 3 model also show an increase in terms of social welfare, not as much as like RCN models. But these tailored RCN models also show the increase. But the good thing here is that if you see table 10, for Cass County, ICM model, the previous ICM model reduces the original budget 10 amount of units. But because of the minimum budget level constraints, now the RCN 1 to 3 model can preserve 19 units, which is just minus 2 of the original budget. So far, we have just outlined our mathematical model and game theoretical model, but the key challenge lies in modeling real-world practices reasonably. We have made some assumptions and we have standardized matrix to model this. So there are 4 key assumptions. First, each county prioritizes the number of inspected risky boat movements incoming to their county. We consider a binary inspection outcome, which means a lake is fully inspected or not. Third, each county has a budget represented by the maximum number of inspected lakes. 4, coalitions allow counties to completely or partially put budgets within the same coalitions. So there are some challenges here we would like to discuss with you, practitioners, county planners. First, does the county planner's utility make sense? Utility means the number of inspected incoming risky arcs. The other question is, how can we estimate the budget? More specifically, how can you convert the financial budget to the number of possible inspected lakes? And we want to know more about if you think if there exist more realistic scenarios for county collaborations. So we actually have used the data set from DNR report previously, but to enhance realism in budget estimation, we tried to utilize the LGU summary file you reported. Our primary goal is to convert the total inspection hours into the number of inspectors. In practice, there are many like different implementations, but we have standardized this like follows. We view the inspection program operational periods ranges from 17 to 23 weeks annually, and for each worker, we assume they work 6.5 hours per day, 4.5 days per week, which then ranges from 497 to 672 total hours per year. And we talked about this with DNR manager Tina, and Tina suggested that 500 hours per inspector may be reasonable. However, we also want to note that in the LGU summary file, I actually calculated this. Sum of total hours is a denominator and sum of staff is numerator. Then it is 284 hours. So this indicates that not all staff members are full-time. But to standardize the matrix, we would like to choose 500 hours, and we want to only consider the binary inspection, either the lake is inspected or not. Overall, we would like to hear from you that this is a reasonable kind of estimation. So key takeaways and questions. Our analysis indicates that the current budget allocations are inefficient in terms of social welfare. When budget reallocations are allowed, we can prioritize investing lakes more, and it will greatly increase the social welfare. And there are a few discussion questions. And first, does our budget estimation seem reasonable at high level? Second, does our county level utility function seem reasonable at high level? And the other questions are you currently collaborating with other counties in any ways, or we want to know if you're interested in making coalitions? So if you want to make coalitions, we also want to know that if we can calculate the minimum budget levels, so how much a budget could be shared to other counties. And few other questions, I believe you can see the screen. So we want to know more about the current practices and what is your priority. We set the priority as the number of inspected risky boats, but you may also prioritize public education efforts. And yes, I want to hear from any feedback from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanru. Yeah, you've got some good discussion questions here. So let's dive into them. I guess first, any questions about the project so far that anyone has on the call here today? Go ahead, Bill.
There, it took me a while to get the microphone on. We're talking about watercraft inspections here. Most counties have a AIS program, and I'm assuming that we're all accepting that we're only talking about a part of our funding. Personally, I think up here people say, oh yeah, our program is watercraft inspections. No, I mean, that's like calling a toolbox full if it only has a hammer in it. So I was just wondering is what considerations are given or percentages to an entire county's budget for what should be set aside for watercraft inspections and decontaminations?
Yes, actually, I only show this budget calculation file based on AGU summary, but in our previous estimation, we actually use the DNR report, and then we use 50% of total like financial budget for inspection program. So we converted 50% of financial budget, and we convert those budget to the number of hired inspectors. But we are in the transition period to use the different data set file for some reason. But yeah, previously we did that.
What might be helpful for those on the call, if you know offhand, from your county aid. If for those, so not everyone on this call receives county aid, just so that you're aware. So those that do receive county aid and you lead your watercraft inspection program here, in the chat, if you want to estimate the percent of your county aid funds that you use for watercraft inspection and put that in the chat, that might be helpful kind of framing for this project.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
So can anyone give some feedback or opinions about our matrix use or the scenarios that I said before? So if you want to make, we would like to know if the current if there is this current coalitions between county planners.
Yes. Does anyone share funding amongst programs? Based on my knowledge, it's none at the moment, Hanwoo. Yeah. I could be wrong. Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Why am I always the one asking questions? There's sharing of resources is a lot easier than sharing of funds. So there's a big difference. And that's a really good segue into our next segment, I guess, too.
Yep, you'll get some better ideas of some specific collaborations coming up next. And Jessamine, I saw you had a question in the chat. Feel free to just chime in and ask.
Yeah, I was just curious if your calculations are based on only placing one inspector at each access, or if you took into consideration having a decon unit there and multiple inspectors at an access, which oftentimes is required. And then also wondering if you included DNR inspectors along with the number of recommended inspectors for each county in your model.
Thank you for your question. So we first convert the total number of hours spent to the total number of inspectors, and we consider we know that each lake has multiple access points, so we are considering the fact as well. And for the DNR budget, we actually separate. We actually introduced variants of mathematical models. So in this slide, we did not incorporate the DNR budget levels, but we also we are also considering prior using DNR budget, and it actually turns out that it's very efficient, because if we prioritize the heavily infested lakes using DNR's budget, because it's like common resources for public resources, everyone, it turns out to be effective. But in this slide, we only show the game theoretical model and using the stable state as a reference point like this.
Just to add to that, we originally read a DNR report that says we altogether there are about 800 inspectors in the state. So then originally we had the misconception that every lake will be stationed with a decon unit, and it will require 2 inspectors, and therefore we reduced the 800. We mapped the 800 inspectors into 400 inspection stations, and each station will cover a lake. So the results that you're seeing here makes that assumption, and that sort of matched with the 50% of the funding allocated by the state is used for inspection. So that's where we got the 50% originally. But as we receive more data from DNR and from you all, I think we will revise those assumptions, because we understand that there are different practices among different counties.
Yeah, I think typically the level 1 inspectors are alone at one access, but potentially by having that and assuming you might have 2 inspectors at one lake, that could mean there's 1 inspector at each of the accesses on that lake. So it might kind of balance out that way too. So something else to keep in mind as you continue your project. Steve, go ahead.
We haven't previously shared cash resources. One thing we're sharing is the concept of risk. So we're starting to staff accesses in Cass County based on their riskiness to our neighbors, in meeting with Bill and Raining. So we've moved around our hours allocation to kind of account for that. And then we're also now looking at statewide reports of last in boats. So we have fourth, fifth, and sixth most commonly reported lakes for what lake were you last in, Leech, Cass, and Winnie. And we're also going to incorporate that. Our local boards are often reluctant to transfer cash resources to an out of county area. But this year they did agree to pass resources to the Leech Lake Band sufficient to hire another inspector if they're interested in that idea. I'm cognizant of the fact that some of those inspectors might not be in Cass County.
Thanks, Steve.
So this is the previous our estimation. So if we converted the total funding to by using only 50%, we used this as a cost of inspectors. But yeah, we want to closely discuss or work with county planners or practitioners about making model realistic. Actually, in fact, the model cannot mimic or reflect the real world practices exactly, but yeah, we want to like find a good point that model can do. So if you have any suggestions or questions, then you can reach out to me or our team or Tina about your variable feedback.
Did you get some of the answers that you were hoping for through these conversations? We could also have some people just talk. I know one of your discussion questions was, how do you allocate hours in your county? If a few of the folks on the call would like to just do their elevator speech of how they prioritize inspections in their area, I think that would be really helpful for this team to understand. Yeah, Spencer, go for it.
Hey everyone. Yeah, I'll go with me first because our program is kind of unique and novel in that we adopt a patrol method, much like a county sheriff's deputy would have a patrol, or a beat cop would have a patrol, or a game warden would have a patrol. The inspectors are assigned a route that they do 5 lakes a day, geographically compact. Typically, the first lake of the day is the busiest one. And then the ones around it are maybe like second or third tier type lakes, but we've got 1,000 lakes, 100 public accesses. You're never more than 15 minutes from a boat ramp anywhere in the county, so the drive time is very minimal. So it's a semi-random selection. I mean, it's not totally random, but it sort of eliminates. I mean, I sort of like make sure that we cover the busy lakes, but it makes it a little more statistically robust because it's not handpicked. And it's just random chance if we run into a boat or not. Typically, they spend 2 hours at each one to make a 10-hour day with a few minutes of drive time between each. We have a more sophisticated timekeeping software this year where I have codes for all of the accesses that they visit, and that's in our timekeeping software. So when they go to their first lake, they'll say like Otter Tail, and then they'll specify the hours, and then they go to the next one, and it'll be like Deer Lake, Southeast, next one. And then with that, I'll be able to export that and get a effort per lake over the course of the year. So I don't really have that right now. I just estimate that we spend 2 hours at each one, but this will let us know how many hours were spent overall at all the places and see which ones have the most inspections per hour, the fewest. It's going to be beautiful, and I've been working with some MACERC people on this plan as well.
Thanks, Spencer. I know Jeffrey posted in the chat about some additional funds that other people get as well, in addition to the county aid, I think is an important piece that's not being covered here as well. And so perhaps those that have a program that receives funding other than AIS prevention aid for their watercraft inspection program, if you want to type your organization and like how much you receive from other sources, that might be helpful for this research team as well. Let's see, we have other hands up. Griffin, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Tina. I apologize if this is not maybe the correct conversation for it, but since we're just talking about schedules, allocations by lake and accesses, has there been any discussion or any research shown about what times and what hour allocation works best, if these are on 6-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts, if this is 6 to 12, if it's 12 to 5? I know that changes from weekday to weekend, but that would also help in some of our hour allocation that we're putting folks in Sherburne County.
Yeah, I'm not sure the model gets that specific. It's just the number of hours spent, right, at a
right, and
at
we
a
assume
lake.
we assume it's full time too.
Okay.
Which is 8 hours a day, and then maybe 4 to 5 days a week, and not on the weekend. Yeah.
So we do evaluate hours and days. And based on that, our first tier is those infested lakes, but we don't give them more than 680 hours. We find that in 4 10-hour shifts, we're seeing 70-ish% of the boats that come through that access. Some of our lakes do have those eyelid automated video machines, so we do know how many boaters are showing up on the days we're not there. Predominantly, most of them are 10 a.m. to 4 or 5 p.m., but if you're in the metro, that seems to range a little wider.
I think Spencer or Steve, did you guys, or yeah, you just chimed in, Steve. Yeah, and there's some things happening in the chat as well with some more information for you all.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to have my hand up. Okay. Other than we have eyelids too, just like Steve does, and we get a sense of how often things are being visited. Also working with MACERC on furnishing that eyelids data to one of the Jared Langer. He's going to be looking at this summer to sort of help bake into these models. And then as far as our timekeeping software, Jacob, it's Tyler Tech, and they're using it for the whole county, and it had kind of a little bit of a rough start, but it seems like it's working. But yeah, we went from pen and paper to that, so pretty major, like countywide, except for the highway department because that's really complicated. And yeah, so we tested it out on like AIS first. So yes, it's a government project, so cost overruns, all those kind of things are baked into it.
Other programs want to share how you prioritize your inspection programs? Yeah, I see a note in the chat there that many counties probably use the AIS Explorer tool by MACERC to identify priority lakes. So that's great.
Also with the AIS Explorer, you can use that to both confirm or like validate, what are the words I'm trying to use? If you see what the AIS Explorer and that sort of traffic or the eyelids traffic are meeting, what sort of WIP data you have, you can sort of validate, cross-validate the different data sources to really sort of see what's happening out on the landscape.
Yeah, so the underlying boat traffic network, we are using the same as the AIS Explorer because they're all being managed by Amy Tinsley. Yeah. I just have a quick question about, there are a lot of informations in the chat. Is there a way for me to export the chat altogether at the end of the meeting?
Yeah, I can do that for you at the end.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll make a note. Go ahead, Bill.
debating how much I should say here. One major component of where we position our inspectors on any given day is where the bite is. That's hugely variable. We also, it's daily, dependent upon weather, wind speed, wind direction. It affects what landings, what lakes are people going to. AIS Explore is invaluable. It continues to get better and better and better. I used to not like it. Now I like it a lot. We had a risk study, Mariah Roofer, R&B Labs. I think we did 60 lakes, and that considered environmental factors, all sorts of factors. And then it's numbers, where the numbers are and where these people are coming from and where they're going. So just about what everybody else does. But the big difference is daily, where the bite is. That's hugely dependent upon where people are going.
Yeah, this is such interesting information, Bill, because we actually submitted an SF proposal talking about using environmental factors to predict where people are, and also behavioral issues. Once they see an inspector, they may move to a different access point or lake. Unfortunately, the program was archived and we didn't get funding, even though we had pretty good reviews. So yeah, we don't have enough resource to keep studying in that line, but yeah, that's such good information. Yeah.
What you have here is a fantastic tool, and it's a great starting place. And I've seen it evolve over your presentations the last couple of months too. So I'm encouraged by what you're doing. I'm also scared to death by it about somebody touching my funding, but I believe in the process. So good work.
Thank you. And I think when we're saying collaboration, we don't mean to take away your funding, really just what you were saying, sharing resources or even sending your own inspectors to maybe inspect another county's lake would also qualify for this type of collaboration. I don't think we want to guide you on the implementation aspect of it. We just want to make sure the models are realistic enough so that it can actually be implemented in real life. Yeah.
Thank you.
Drew, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. Selena, you probably just answered half of my question. I was going to ask more about the collaborations, and I think Tina said that we don't really have any in the state yet. So yeah, I guess my question was going to be kind of for everyone, like how would we do that? Like, what about the counties right next to the counties who get like the top 10 funding would be kind of different from 2 counties or 3 counties or 4 that are next to each other that all get lower numbers of state funding. So yeah, I guess I was just kind of curious if anyone's really thought about how that modeling would work, whether it's like Bill said, kind of dipping into funding and one county ends up kind of inspecting over in the other county, or yeah, I guess that's the question.
Yeah, and to be clear, there are plenty of collaborations happening across the state, but I'm not aware of one county literally giving money to another county to do the work. But collaborations are flexible, right? So there's definitely opportunity there.
A ton of us collaborate, but are there counties that are sharing their watercraft inspections together? And how do they do that? So yeah.
In the presentation, I actually show 2 variants of models. One is coalitional model, and the other is non-coalitional model. But even though we name it as a non-coalitional model, that does not mean that they are not collaborating. So it's actually you can keep your budget, you can keep control your budget, but kind of sending inspectors to the different set of lakes. But these set of lakes, the information can come from the other counties. So I can like put 10 inspectors from only top 10 lakes, but if the other counties request me to send the inspector not to Lake A but to Lake G or Lake Y, then considering it is also form of coalitions or collaboration. So between the two models, the first model does not like lose any budget control, but it also greatly increased social welfare. So it's the magic of the mathematical programming models, because we do not capture the influences or the inter network between like watercraft systems, water body systems, but mathematical model can capture it. So, but if the model lack kind of reference point or baseline point, it will just maximize the state level objective. That's why we give kind of reference point or a stable point, very analytical solution. So yeah, there is a way that you do not send your inspector to other counties' lakes, but within your county. And the another thing is actually, I also mentioned that it turns out to be very effective to use the DNR budgets to the heavily infested lakes, and this may be very like this does not harm anyone, but maximize the happiness.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
That helped a lot. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Jeffrey.
Hello. Kind of piggybacking off of what Bill was talking about with weather, kind of determining what lakes or what days they were doing surveys, boat inspections. I noticed, like, for instance, when I was doing helping out with the Salmon Classic at my previous job, that weather would change, such as wind direction or fog rolling in. People would then just bail out and go to other lakes, which is then a huge issue of likely spread. And that's actually why a theory as to how Devil Track got infested. Somebody who's fishing on Lake Superior from Grand Marais, weather changed, and then they moved in or took their boat out, went up to Devil Track, and didn't wait 3 to 5 days, didn't get their boat cleaned. And that's just very challenging, because that's just, you can't predict the weather, and it can happen so fast. And so I don't know if that's something you look into with this, but it's good for us to keep that in mind. And then what was the other? There's one other one. Shoot. I had one other thought, and I'm blanking on it right now. I'll chime back in if I think of it.
Okay. Thanks, Jeffrey. And Amanda, go ahead.
This is for Drew. Cook County had for 2 years one inspector that was shared between Lake and Cook County. They lived in Cook County, but like they bordered the line, and that area in the border is all wilderness, but it's a very popular destination for camping and canoe country, but not in the boundary waters. So Lake County would reimburse Cook County. I would just invoice them, but they were a Cook County employee.
There we go.
Oh, that's a good example. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Jessamine, go ahead.
I see John is going to chime in, and it's probably on my question. I thought there was some sharing between North St. Louis and Lake County as well. So
you are absolutely correct. We do share with Lake County and Koochiching, basically because North St. Louis is such a vast area to cover. It just makes sense for their inspectors to come over to our region, just geographically speaking, and then we do contract with them and pay for their services. As far as prioritizing lakes, we try and target the infested waters first, just to make sure we're not spreading it to lakes that aren't infested, while targeting some of those other lakes that aren't as popular to boaters that may find more lake jumpers to them, since there are such a large number of lakes up in this area. So it's kind of the dynamic of spreading out the resources as needed.
Thanks, John. All right, Spencer, go ahead.
Yeah, I've talked about lake hopping and the weather and all these variables, and as Bill said, the bites. It happens daily. The fishing guides, or just fishermen in general, the advanced sonar suites, live scopes, with the automatic trolling motor, they'll back out. I watched it, Ottertail Lake. Back out, they go out to the fathom line or whatever, they stick the live scope out, they scope ahead, they turn on all the different things. If they don't find something in 15 minutes, they're back, hoisting back up onto the trailer. They're going 5 minutes down the road to the next lake, and they'll do that until they find fish. So people do 5 lakes a day in Ottertail County, easy, every day of the week.
Thanks, Spencer. All right. Anwu, any last thoughts or questions for the group? I hope you got some information you need to continue with your project. And as you can tell, many of these folks are very willing to share their experiences with you. So, feel free to reach out. I have contact information for them if you continue to need more information. So thank you, everyone, for this good discussion today. And thank you to the MACERG team for coming and presenting today.
Thank you. We appreciate your effort, and then we thank you to all people here.
All right. Well, we still have an hour left, so don't everyone leave. We've got our panel sessions next, but we are going to take a quick break. Let's take a 7-minute break and then come back at 3 p.m. for our tribal and local government collaboration panel. So get up, stretch, and we'll see you in 7 minutes. People are coming on back. Give me a thumbs up or reaction of some sort. Pop your camera on for a second. Let me know you're back.
Hey, Tina.
Hello.
I haven't been able to be
Yeah.
a part of the chat at all. It
Okay.
says I'm not a member of the chat, so
Oh,
I wasn't even able to see them until just a little bit ago. All of a sudden, they just all showed up, but I
Huh.
still can't send any messages. So I don't know if you can fix that or not.
don't think I can, Russ. Sorry. I can maybe try to play around with some things here. Yeah, it doesn't, no options to make that happen, so. Yeah, you might just not have access to it right now. So our next speakers are Raining, Steve, and Bill. I don't know if you have anything you want to screen share at all, or if you just want to pop on and be our panelists here this afternoon and kick us off.
I think we should have a picture
Thanks,
of Steve's
Steve.
face up.
Okay.
There we go.
I tried to make Russ an attendee. Did I pop up now? Oh, good. Raining's here.
Yeah.
Can everyone see the map?
Yep.
Not the best map, but I scrambled on this, so.
Glad someone did their homework.
You got most of Itasca in there. It's a good job.
How could you ever get all of Itasca in a map without making everything else tiny?
Good point. We're small compared to St. Louis. Tina, I'm not really sure. I don't have any slides or anything, but Steve, Raining, we've talked about this. I've talked so much. Why don't you guys go ahead and say if I have anything to add, I will.
Yeah, I can start. My name's Raining
all,
White.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say you could all introduce yourself. That would be great. Thanks, Raining.
Yeah, no problem. So my name's Raining White. I work for Leech Lake Band Ojibwe Division of Resource Management, which is the band's DNR basically. And I work in the plants department, so we handle all things botany related, including invasive species, aquatic and terrestrial, cultural plants, a little bit of forestry, like the understory of forestry, pretty much anything plant related and more. A lot of our funding, we're kind of self-funded program, so the bulk of our funding, I'd say over 90%, is Bureau of Indian Affairs grants, which is federal dollars that we have to apply for year after year. Luckily, we get those almost every year that we apply. As you can see from this map that Steve provided, Leech Lake Reservation, it's over 800,000 acres. About 40% of that is water, including 3 of our top 10, I believe, biggest lakes in the state: Cass, Leech, and Winnibigoshish. There's also Bowstring and Sand Lake there in the northeast corner, which are very popular recreational and fishing lakes. So we have this exterior boundary here in the red, and we cross jurisdiction with Beltrami, Hubbard, Itasca, and Cass County. So our Watercraft inspection program is fairly young. I think we started our delegation agreement with the DNR in 2001, I believe, because we renewed it in 2004, and are continuing that every year. It gets a little bit stronger. We completed just over 700 inspections last year with 2 inspectors. Our inspectors are paid through our grants. We get no county AIS aid because we're not a county. So that kind of makes it difficult to grow our program, but we do what we can. We do have a decon unit. I get certified as a Watercraft inspector up to level 2 every year. And yeah, it's been great working with Steve and Bill, but I can let them introduce themselves and their programs.
Go ahead, Steve.
So I'm Steve. I'm the new guy in the team here. The CAS AIS program manager. So we do share a lot of our major waters with the tribes. And we are strong in some skill sets, and they are really strong in some other skill sets. And we've started a discussion group meeting actively with the tribe in Itasca County, gleaning a lot of ideas, concepts, even inspector management stuff from Bill. So I guess we do about 13,000 hours a year and about 27,000 inspections, I believe. We run 3 decon units. One's down on Gull in our southwest corner there by Brainerd, very high use, zebra mussel infested. One's at Federal Dam there on the northeast corner of Leech Lake. Both of those are in cooperation with the Army Corps of Engineers. Cass County program has historically not owned the decon units. And then we have one in the southeast corner of the county on Roosevelt Lake, just inside the county border, again on a major highway, not zebra mussel infested, but seeing a lot of traffic of boats from areas that have higher levels of zebra mussel infestation. So Cass County has 13 of our 103 publicly accessible lakes are infested with zebra mussels. With Leech, Winnie, and Cass accounting for the majority of those acres, but then also Woman and 10 Mile there just outside the reservation boundaries. 10 Mile, it being unique in the fact that although we consistently find zebra mussel villagers, even the DNR mollusk survey crew was unable to find any adult zebra mussels after surveying well over 1,000 native mollusks collected from all around the lake. So interesting case there.
All right.
My turn?
Yeah. Go
I'll
ahead,
be brief. Bill Granchis, Itasca County AIS Program Manager. I just start off by saying it's a real pleasure working with Raining and Steve. They've upped my game all the time. And thank you, Steve and Raining, for what you said about me. It's not true. But our program, we have kind of our, well, we don't kind of have, we have our own control and monitoring group that's out doing lake surveys, zebra mussel, villager tows, that sort of stuff. It's common for us to be get a report for a possible AIS find, and the DNR, our guy will say, hey, Chris, we guys go out and check it out for us. So we're very lucky that way. Raining, hands down, has got the best dash unit I've ever seen. We've learned a lot from working with them. We just added a scuba diver to our program last year. And thank you, Raining, for the tutelage and everything that you've helped us with. As far as sharing resources, I guess the biggest resource we share, I think we've all kind of said, is just we talk all the time. I haven't been able to. Years ago, I sent a Land Ecos unit and 2 inspectors down to help for a big wall muskie tournament in Cass, and they were stationed at the casino at night, and they didn't do any inspections, but they did gamble when they're done, so they were very happy. But my county frowns on direct spending on other counties. However, the results of our partnerships with Leech Lake Band and Cass has changed that a lot. So now it's considered something that we hold up and say, hey, look what we're all doing, as opposed to you shouldn't be doing that. So I'm very fortunate that way.
Thanks, Bill. So I have, as the facilitator, I have some panel questions for you all. If you want to chime in and answer these, we've got, what are some of the hurdles to collaborating and coordinating watercraft inspection programs?
I can hop in on that first one. For us, it really comes down to our funding. We can afford to hire about 2 watercraft inspectors. If we hired any more, we're taking resources from elsewhere in our program. So that is kind of a tricky situation. You know, we don't want to lean on the counties or the state to inspect our lakes, but I did a GIS exercise in preparation for this a little while ago, and I think we have like 70 plus public water accesses within the reservation. And I don't know what that puts us in relation to other counties, but you know, 70 accesses, 2 inspectors, you kind of understand the struggle there. So we really rely on our county partners for communication of just scheduling inspectors. You know, we're in contact with the DNR. I'm not sure if we're in 2 separate regions for watercraft inspection, but like there is 2 separate regions that go through the reservation, which can make communication with like APM permits, for example, a little bit trickier. And then like if you look at Winnebagosh, just there, that bigger lake, kind of dead center of the reservation, the county line goes right through it. I don't know whose idea that was, but so you know, Steve has the southern edge of that, and Bill has the northern side of it, and then you know, so where do we plug in there? Because Winnie's huge walleye lake, you know, there's tons and tons of resorts. I don't know the exact number of accesses, but I think it's close to a dozen maybe, or maybe not that quite that much, but with the resorts and accesses and in the connected water bodies, there's a lot of in and out going on. So it's just struggling to man those accesses and those introduction points. And especially on the north side and northwest side of the lake, it's really, that's all national forest and reservation area. So very undeveloped, right? So it's hard to get folks physically out there. If you think of Walker down there on the southwestern side, or Grand Rapids, which is outside of the reservation, you know, it's hard to get people to either apply for these jobs and work them in these areas that are close to Winnie, or to justify sending someone from Grand Rapids or Walker to go, you know, that far up and sit. Because from Cass Lake, where we're based out of, you know, we can have up to an hour drive time just to get to some of these more remote lakes, and it can really be a strain on our time in a day and our resources. But so that's some of the things that we kind of lean on our partners to cope with, and just, you know, how do we cover these efficiently, but also, you know, both cost efficient and time efficient, just dealing with that. So it's been helpful to work with these guys.
Raining, I'm looking at the spreadsheet I did for the AIS tool stations, and I identified 34 access points and resorts. That's on Winnie and waters directly connected to Winnie, like Cutfoot Sioux, things like that. So it's a lot.
Yeah, it's quite a bit.
I think one of the number one hurdles was just the free flow of information. It wasn't until we really got together and started continuously discussing, and then got comfortable with discussing things. You know, Bill said we really need to address the gorilla in the room. We got Starry Stone, where it's basically endemic in Winnebagosh. It's also present, localized in Leech and in Cass. And until that concept was introduced, I didn't realize what a threat it posed to Itasca County. Winnie only comes up less than 2% of the time in Cass County for what was the last lake you were in. And the majority of those are on Leech and Cass. It is remote, so we had actually backed away from staffing the Winnebagosh accesses. But after talking with Bill and Raining that this was a need, this might be a possibility to find someone. Last year, we found someone in the area. We were able to shift inspectors who were normally in Walker slightly north, and then shift everyone slightly over, so their drive time stayed about the same, but we got to Winnie. And then we found out that we encountered a lot more boaters than we were expecting. So this year we're actually stepping that up a little and moving to another access on Winnie to see what kind of boater traffic we encounter there. But also, like they alluded to, the tool stations. How can we address these accesses in the absence of an inspector? How do we buy these things? Cass County is willing to buy the stations. We collaborated on buying the posts, and then Raining stepped up and said, you know, the Leech Lake Band does have some staff to maybe get things installed. So again, who's got the resources? What is the priority? How might we respond to it? Just that free flow of information and comfort level with each other.
I think we also need to mention collaborations, not just between the three of us, but groups that we belong to. Minnesota Lakes and Rivers Associates has a Stop Starry program that's been incredible. Anybody that's got starry stonewort on a lake in their county is aware of the program, should be a part of it. The collaboration there is just incredible. Sidebar note, one of our busiest landings we have is Mossimo, and that's on Cutfoot Sioux, which is a very popular way of entering Winnie. We have a Land Echoes decon unit stationed there about 9 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's one of our busiest landings we have. So in a way, we kind of do contribute, but we're definitely thinking about looking into see if we can't get some more tribal involvement. Raining, you've been a huge help with the west side of Winnie and giving me a heads up on some of our CD3 units and other landings where you've seen something out of the norm. That's helped us a lot. So.
You've kind of answered some of the other questions. The next question too was, what are some of the benefits for collaborating, and were there benefits you didn't expect?
Yeah, you guys have actually pointed out some funding sources to me that we were then successful in a Forest Service RAC grant to get $64,000 to help control starry stonewort and other aquatic invasives to try and contain them. Then again, like Bill said, the CD3s, we have one where the access ramp is folded up. It's not been fixed. The Forest Service campground closed. Can someone else use this better? Where could we move this to team? And coming up with, maybe Bill could use it, but north side of Sucker Bay, the Eurasian comes up all the time, and Raining pointed out that's also a high priority for our other lakes in the area. So collectively coming to reallocate resources that aren't getting their best use.
Having somebody to bounce crazy ideas off of is, Steve, you and I, we do it all the time. What's last when we're talking about UV or bubble curtains or things like that, or schooling me on copper mesh. Just having someone else, a peer group to just freely bounce ideas off of helps a lot. And there are other counties too, not just three of us. I know we're all busy with other counties too. So I'm lucky. I'm surrounded by some counties that have got some incredible AIS people running their programs. So I'm very fortunate.
Yeah, I'd say it's the partnership in general is really beneficial to Leech Lake, to my employer. But it's helpful that being a tribal entity and kind of being autonomous, that we can react to things maybe quicker than the state or county can. And so when Bill says, I need some eyes on this area that's within the reservation, I can pivot to that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And move resources if I need to. Have inspectors, send inspectors there, go there myself to dive around if needed. And so when Steve talks about getting allocating some money for my department to hire an inspector to get, if that money's in our hands, then that county line doesn't really matter too much, I guess, because I can send people right across into Itasca and from Cass to Itasca back and forth. And so that flexibility, I think, really helps us respond to AIS issues, especially emerging ones, and maybe things that Cass or Itasca County maybe can't quite get to as quick as they would want to. And so I think that's super beneficial, just to have that open communication and discussing needs and being upfront about our needs.
Agreed.
Thanks. Thanks, guys. We've gone through our 20 minutes already. I knew it would go fast, but that was real fast. Any kind of closing thoughts on, what advice you might have for other people interested in a collaboration such as yours?
Yeah, I would just say reach out to your neighbors, tribal, county. It's, it's there's a lot of misunderstanding of tribes. There's 11 unique tribes in the state, so I can't speak for any other tribe besides Leech Lake, but we all have the same goals as AIS managers and natural resource professionals, that just pick up the phone, or stop in the office and just, it's not scary. Nobody's going to kick you out for being, employed by the reservation or being a tribal member. It's really, we're at a point in time where, I couldn't reach somebody is an excuse anymore. It's the DNR, the Forest Service, the counties, townships, they all know how to reach tribes. Almost every tribe that I know of has a natural resource department. Every tribe has, investments in their landscape. And so it's really just taking that step of knocking on the door, so to speak, and holding out a hand, and some tribes, some things may not work out, but that line of communication is just really the first step.
Steve, if you remember when you first started, this is my advice to everybody. If you have a county in your region, doesn't have to be touching your county, that has a new AIS program person, reach out to that person, and that's a great way to build a partnership. That's sort of how, Steve, you and I started, I think, was you being the new guy and me hoping that you'd last more than a year, which you have, and you've flourished. So yes. But there are other counties up here. When you find that someone is new, those people are great to reach out to. That's just my recommendation. Look for new people, reach out to them, offer them any resources you can.
My quick bit would just be that the hurdles you envision aren't nearly as big as they look. The benefits are way broader than you would anticipate, and the relationships are priceless.
Beautiful. Very beautiful. Thank you. All right. Yes. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to our next collaborative group, which is the East Metro group. So I don't know who wants to take the lead on that group, but dive on in.
Sorry, I'll share my screen here in just a second, pulling it up.
Thanks, Tori.
Oops. Awesome. Can everyone see this?
Yep.
Awesome. So I'm Tori. I just quickly put together a slide of the East Metro collaboration efforts. I work for the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District, and we're a 49 square mile watershed district in the northeast suburbs. So we work closely with the Washington Conservation District. They hire 8 to 12 inspectors working 10 to 40 hours a week. We work closely with the DNR. They have 2 crews. And then Chisago County, and then ourselves. Chisago County hires up to 14 inspectors, and then we hire up to 10 inspectors, ranging mostly part-time a week. So different programs have different accesses. The Washington Conservation District provides covers 17 accesses throughout Washington and Ramsey County. Comfort Lake, Forest Lake Watershed District, we have 5 public accesses within our 49 square miles. And then Chisago County has 24 public water accesses. And they come into our district as well. So this is quickly just, this is a lot of words on the slide, I'm sorry. But it's basically figuring out the busiest accesses and where people are scheduled. So the DNR uses their tier system. Chisago County tries to pair level 2 with level 1. Oh, I guess that's all I had on that one. I'm sorry. Goals and budgets and priorities. For my personal, in my opinion, not in my opinion, in my job, sorry, we use the rate $23 an hour to figure out how many hours can be funded. And so we get a lot of our funding from the counties, local municipalities, and then other interest groups such as like associations. Washington Conservation District had a budget of $114,500 with they partnered closely with watershed districts, lake associations, and cities. And then Chisago County is funded through the state. And then Susanna asked me to add this as well. I'll let you read that. And then, yeah, that was just a quick overview of something we had discussed about sharing. So if someone else has something they'd like to say about our collaboration, I'd love that.
Thanks for taking that on, Tori.
Yeah.
I can share a little more on the Ramsey Washington collaboration piece of this, because I think this comes the closest to answering the question from the first presentation of having money from a different county go to another county for them to inspect their lakes. We do, I think Washington is the Washington Conservation District, and unfortunately Matt and Amanda couldn't be here, but they're kind of the hub of all this. Is they run one of the best inspection programs, and so there's plenty of places that bordering, just because of the shape of Washington County covering so much of the East Metro, where there's a lot of border lakes. So I will give Matt some of my AIS prevention aid in particular to inspect my lakes, but the closest we come is probably one of the watershed districts gives Matt money directly to inspect a lake on our side of the county, and it's a shared border. It splits right down the middle, both of them. So we haven't gotten to that point yet where we are giving each other money to fill in inspections, but I think that's one of the pieces that moving forward that we should really talk about is if we identify a lake is high priority, can we start funneling funds to make sure that it has the coverage? So that's our piece of it.
Thanks. And with Chisago County, the relationship where county inspectors work in the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District, which part of the district is in southern Chisago County and the other part is in northern Washington County. But that has gone back to 2015. So at the start, really, of the AIS prevention aid funding coming into the county. And there's such a relationship between boaters boating in the Forest Lake area accesses in the southern Chisago County and then into the rest of the county. So it's really key to have as much coverage as we can. And that's what is allowing that kind of full week coverage. Event. It had started out where inspectors would work primarily, county inspectors working in the district, and now as over time, and I was Tori to be able to mention this, but the district has been able to add more of their inspectors. So we just have a few still working during the week in the watershed district, and then those inspectors started out where inspectors would work primarily county inspectors working in the district, and now it's over time, and I was Tori to be able to mention this, but the district has been able to add more of their inspectors. So we just have a few still working during the week in the watershed district, and then those inspectors also work weekends, weekend hours within the rest of the county. So I think it's good to have that coverage, especially with zebra mussels being in the lakes in the watershed district. And that's done through a joint powers agreement between the county and the watershed district to have that reimbursement happen. So it's nice to have kind of our area working together, because there is such, and I think that's something we'd see on the AIS Explorer, the boaters, they're going between our lakes from lake to lake. So, thank you.
Couple of questions in the chat I'd like to get to, unless Tina, you got some other direction you want to go?
I'll let Christine pop in quick and then go for it.
For sure.
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask if Madeline, if you had anything that you wanted to share before I said anything. Go ahead.
I think Susanna covered it, but thank you.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Christine Hawk-Lacoons, the Region 3 Watercraft Inspection Supervisor with the DNR. And I just really enjoy working with this group. We have met years ago and really just started collaborating and talking about what accesses everyone covers and where there were gaps. And I think sharing my schedule with the LGUs, 2 weeks ahead of time before we actually start those schedules is really important, and gives us a chance to talk about, do we have overlap somewhere? Is there a special event? Does somebody need help with something? Are there water bodies that aren't able to be covered? So I know Susanna and I have sort of discussed Rush Lake. So East and West Rush Lake is something that's hard to get to. So I send a crew up there once in a while to help cover those uninfested waters. And so that's been really great for us too, to be able to go to a new area within some of the counties. And so, yeah, I just really appreciate the communication and the working together that everybody does.
And Justin, if you want to jump on those questions in the chat, go for it.
Yeah, and I don't know if I introduced myself too. I was Justin Townsend. I'm with Ramsey County. How do you identify the lakes as high priority? I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but no starry stonewort lakes in our little consortium. So it's mainly just keeping the zebra mussels at bay from obviously we have the big sentinel lakes and White Bear and Forest Lake and all that have zebra mussels are probably feeders for all the rest of them. I think there's a lot of focus on those. The traffic wise, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a metro area. There's a lot of traffic all the time, pretty much everywhere. There's some smaller puddle lakes that probably don't get as much pressure, and I think those get maybe less attention. But it's pretty easy to get on the same page when talking to everybody of, well, of course we have to cover this. This lake should be covered all the time because it's zebra mussel infested, milfoil infested. And we know that starry stonewort's probably knocking at the door. I haven't had too much conversation on that, but the part I really wanted to get to was addressing the overlap. And Christine, I think you mentioned it exactly, is I think we're all following about the same plan. Is the DNR schedule comes out and then we try to wrap around that. But a piece that I know Matt and I have both really worked hard on is just prevent the overlap to begin with. So if we know DNR is going to be working 7 to 5 ish, so if we can get there really early and work a 5 to 7 shift, or maybe like a 5 to 8 and have a little bit of overlap, that's excellent. Or like on our the White Bear landing, we won't usually go there before 5 p.m. And then we get people coming off as they might be heading to a different lake the next day or heading to the river the next day. So I think just avoiding the potential for overlap, or if there is overlap, it's a couple of hours. And then that leads to another thing, that the training has been excellent in this group. The cross training has been excellent because we have those opportunities to get to some, I know Matt mentioned getting to people to some busier lakes that might be on some less busy lakes, and overlapping with the DNR staff that has been there for years and years that they might not have otherwise interacted with, is a huge help with this group. So that's, I think, just avoiding the conflict to begin with and not scheduling people during those times is probably the best. What we might need to get better at is then covering those gaps, making sure there are no gaps, not just assuming somebody is there.
Yeah, and then the fact that if we've had overlap before, we have those, as Justin mentioned, and I just call them mentorship opportunities. And so if staff are, if they're brand new, if they're able to stay, maybe we only have one person for the day with the decon unit. And so we're very open to saying, hey, stick around, help out, let's learn from each other. And then when there are issues with overlap, it's say maybe a water body that typically would only have one person, and maybe we don't take a decon unit, there's that open communication because the staff have met each other. And so I think that is really helpful too. And yeah, very, very happy with our partnerships overall.
Right, and it's hard when they're out working by themselves, and let alone not having opportunities to meet other county staff. We bring them together, have monthly meetings, but then to meet the DNR staff as well. So that's good that they are able to meet others. And with Comfort Lake Forest, like Watershed District, and I know Tori, you can talk about this also, but so we are county inspectors working Monday through Thursday. That prevents the overlap. So we know which specific days each of the different groups will be working during the week. So, and then we do our scheduling every 2 weeks, and we always include the Watershed District staff, and we'll be including Tori in that list of the inspector schedules.
I see Bill has a question. Go for it, Bill.
Yeah. Hi. Big fan of all you folks, and it's a pleasure meeting you guys at some of the conferences that we've been at too. State funding, AIS aid. In Itasca County, we are the only entity that receives that aid. Now, in your respective counties, Ramsey, Chicago, all your different counties, are you sharing that piece of that pie, or are you unique in getting your funding from state AIS aid?
For the Watershed District, we have a little bit of our own budget, but then we rely mainly on the partners to help with that budget. And the Washington and the counties, yeah.
Thank you.
So with Chisago County relying primarily on the state AIS prevention aid, and we do receive some funding, the reimbursement from the Watershed District for the hours worked in the district of the inspectors, and then some from the Chisago Lakes Lake Improvement District for use of county vehicles.
Ramsey's same, all AIS prevention aid. I kind of want to speak for Matt because I think Washington County's in kind of a unique position in, yeah, and Tina, correct me if I'm wrong, you know the story a little bit better, but the county receives the aid and releases it all as a grant in the conservation district. The SWCD gets a portion of that, but has to apply every year. So it's, it can be a little shaky on what exactly that amount will be.
Right. Drew, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna answer Bill's question for us in, excuse me, in Carver County. It's kind of the other way around here. All of the state aid goes to the county. To be honest, we use most of that aid to kind of pay for having the program, administration and whatnot. And then watershed districts will partner with us, and we kind of use the state aid to leverage kind of a match from them. And I think that's what some other counties are doing as well. But then again, I am not one of the larger counties that, receive 6 times as much as we do.
Thanks, Drew.
Like you, Bill.
That's a good teaser, right, Tina, for the other panel talk coming up on invasive species and water quality in a few weeks, and how to leverage watershed dollars because their sole purpose is for water quality.
Yeah, Spencer.
Oh yeah, hey, I was just gonna say, our program started with levy dollars, like 60,000 levy dollars before the AIS even came in. We were like top 5, so I think we get about like 466. It's all AIS prevention aid. We get a small amounts, but it's appreciated from like lakes that we've installed islands at, like a lake association, just to sort of help defray the cost of that being there. And then we do give some out to the coalition of lake associations to help get the word out and stuff. But yeah, no levy dollars that we're using at this time.
Thanks, Spencer. So I haven't even gotten to our panel questions yet. We're having some good conversations, so I just let those happen. But I will ask one, how do you balance supporting partnerships and accomplishing your own organization's priorities? So Spencer, if you want to jump in, you can go for it.
Sure. I guess I would say that this is cribbed from I think it's the CEO of General Motors in the 1950s. What's good for America is good for GM, and that can be twisted around in a lot of different ways. But what's good for my partners is good for us, and I think vice versa. It's if it's the partnership is purchasing of coasters, and we can drive down the unit cost by doing a bulk order, I'm all for it. If it's going in with other counties on education and awareness materials for, again, that bulk order unit rate cost going down, I'm all for it. If it's sharing information about, high traffic lakes, new patterns that we're seeing, pick up the phone and let someone know. So like, I think all of our interests get advanced when we work together.
Go ahead, Susanna.
Yeah, thank you. And I think our work, or at least from from county's perspective, it's intertwined. We've been working together for so long. It's part of what we do, and it's opened up doors to new programs. And I know, Justin, you would probably talk more about this, but just the eDNA partnership that has just started last year, or at least the county had joined in it.
Another plug for our workshops coming up.
It's all right. Good lead in. So, and we're lucky that we're at that point that we can just talk about, well, what else do we need? How else can we keep moving forward and do new things along with our current work?
And I would say, from my perspective, is that I have such a small team, right, in the central and east part of the metro. If I'm lucky and I filled my vacancies, I have 8 people. And there is no way to cover the vast amount of lakes and accesses that are there. And so I really appreciate these partnerships, and for us to discuss, like, okay, my staff are working, these weekends at these places, and I'm able to cover certain, some bigger accesses with my staff. And so I appreciate the amount of coverage and the amount of area that all of us are able to do by working together.
All right. Any last thoughts from our East Metro group here?
I do have one more, unless if anyone else wants to jump in. And this was, I know this had come up in our last session with using AIS funding for non-watercraft inspections. And that kind of had to do with the one slide that we looked at earlier. And the work that Madeline is doing with the early detection and outreach education programs and our decontamination unit, employee training, there's just a lot of other work. And I know we all are doing that other work, but those partnerships also exist, I guess, within the county, working with the sheriff's office, essentially paying them for overtime shifts to do inspections with the AIS program aid, partnering with Wild Rivers Conservancy, early detection and outreach and education programs. And a lot of these partnerships also started in 2015. So there's a lot of work early on in how do we maximize the use of our funds with very limited staff.